All right, here we go. Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Yes, I'm rocking a Phillies jersey, and you might not be a Phillies fan, but I'm all Philly all the time. And if you like the Sixers, hopefully you're all Philly all the time as well. If you're not and you just like the Sixers, that's all good too. You know what's all good? The show that we have cooked up for you. Tyrese Maxey looking great in the preseason. Got to talk about that. Also some roster moves to break down. And are the Philadelphia 76ers title contenders to chase the Larry O.B. for the first time since the 80s. First, though, make sure you subscribe to the channel, the best, most interactive, most informative Sixers channel on YouTube. Hit that red subscribe button down below to subscribe to 76ers Now. Do greatly appreciate all of the support. All right, Tyrese Maxey. If you've been watching him throughout the NBA preseason, I tweeted this out the other day, are we about to see another Tyrese Maxey jump? And of course, this is notable because Daryl Morey was asked, okay, what needs to happen for the Sixers to truly be considered title contenders? And he said, you know what? We brought back James. We have a deeper roster. I think we're tougher. We're better defensively. But the wild card here is if Tyrese Maxey makes that other step. He did it from year 1 to year 2. Is he about to do it from year 2 to year 3? Because through 3 preseason games, it looks as though he is going to do just that. Now, yes, it is the preseason. And yes, it's only 3 games played. But what we're seeing from Tyrese Maxey, folks, is what we've seen from Tyrese Maxey in the past. And if that next leap is here, and if it's about to go down, then this Sixers team becomes a lot more interesting. 20 points per game, 66.5% from long range. What I loved against the Cleveland Cavaliers on Monday night, that little screen that he came off of, catch and shoot from way downtown, a steal per game. And here's the deal, 20 points per game, 18 minutes per game. He's looked great. The Philadelphia Phillies are looking great. The Philadelphia Eagles are still undefeated. Phillies coming through with that Game 1 victory against the Atlanta Braves. I'm so pumped up. But for Philly to contend and for this energy to continue, Maxey needs to take that next step for the Sixers to truly be considered an elite title caliber team. And if that happens, you look at the starting 5 here, everything kind of falls into place. You know what you're going to get from Joel Embiid. Back-to-back second-place finishes in NBA MVP voting. Joel Embiid is a walking bucket and one of the more impactful defensive players in the NBA. James Harden, honestly, he may have lost weight. He may have said that my dip in production was because of that hamstring injury. He looks as though he still lacks a little bit of that explosion. I think it's because all of the minutes starting to rack up. But if James Harden can still give you, let's say, 20 points per game, 8 dimes, 6, 7 assists per game, and Tyrese Maxey takes that leap, then that's what makes this lineup so dangerous because James Harden, as more of a defer of the basketball, less like the Houston Rockets James Harden, where he was getting buckets, makes this team very versatile to defend against and very difficult to defend. And this starting 5 really can play against anybody if you have that star power because any given night, you're talking about Embiid going off. You're talking about Maxey going off. You're talking about Harden going off because at points, he's going to drop between 25 and 30 points. P.J. Tucker there for defense. So, too, is a guy like Matisse Thybulle. Tobias Harris is 18 to 20 points per game. Solid 3-ball, solid defense. I love the construction of the roster with what we've seen up to this point and the depth of it, and Tyrese Maxey certainly glorifies that. So, what do you think? Will Tyrese Maxey be an all-star this upcoming season? That is our poll question for today's show. I want to hear from everybody here in the comment section. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. I think Maxey is destined for really special things. Next up on the docket, are the Sixers truly title contenders? Now, if Maxey is like a 25 points per game guy, then yes, because they can hit you in a couple of different directions every single night. But the Sixers, according to ESPN NBA expert Zach Lowe, in his inner circle of teams in the NBA that can raise the Larry O.B. Among those other teams, it's the Sixers, it's the Golden State Warriors, it's the Milwaukee Bucks, Los Angeles Clippers, surprisingly somewhat the Denver Nuggets, but they get Jamal Murray back from that torn ACL as well as Michael Porter, and these 6 teams, they're certainly going to be a factor to win the NBA championship, but Lowe pretty high on Philadelphia because of a lot of the things that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks and months. Here's what he had to say on ESPN. The good news is the Sixers are so talented, they don't need Houston Harden. That's what I just echoed. Who likely no longer exists. I agree. They just need Harden to be good or decent, or at the very least, to make some positive imprint instead of melting like he did in the playoffs. Harden did that in some postseason performances last year, including a few in which he appeared to have some burst. If his hamstring is healthy and he's in shape, Harden should remain an all-star and in the conversation for third-team All-NBA. If that guy shows up when it matters, then Philly has everything that it needs. And a lot of the season does ride on James Harden. But what's funny is that I don't think he's going to be the Houston Rockets' James Harden. And Zach Lowe doesn't believe he's going to be the Houston Rockets' James Harden. But what did I tell you back last week or the week before? Even if Harden puts up the regular season numbers that he put up last year, and he improves upon the field goal percentage and the three-point percentage and gets better with the efficiency, he's still so impactful that even though he's not maybe an elite player any longer in terms of being that top 5, top 10 guy, he can still be an all-pro type of player in the NBA. Now, in the playoffs, the numbers a little bit concerning as the points per game went down, assists went down, the field goal percentage about the same, three-point percentage. If he's hovering around 37%, that's phenomenal for Philadelphia. But James Harden, really the season lies on him, and I appreciate him for taking that pay cut. I appreciate James Harden for getting in better shape. But it's kind of everything that James Harden did during the Rockets days and the Nets days. He never really took so seriously his body. And if he did early in his career, maybe he wouldn't be hitting this little bit of a standstill right now than what we're seeing. And it seems like Harden is ready to compete. That's great. He has the right mentality. But again, the Sixers, because of how they built this team, can afford James Harden being very good instead of elite and still be a very good team in the NBA. So to show some love to James Harden, the beard, he's one of the more impactful offensive players that we've ever seen. I want you to type 1 in the comment section. That's his jersey number. Do that right now. Now, we do have a great deal that we do want to tell you about. I used to rock this Sixers Iverson jersey way back in the day, and it's one of the classic Mitchell and Ness throwbacks. And you can get it right now, 25% off, thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Head to chatsports.com/Iverson. That deal will apply for you. Really awesome thread, and if you love the Sixers and you love AI, the AI crossover, my gosh, it brings back so many great memories. You can get that deal, be swagged up and swagged out. All right, let's round out with some roster moves for Philadelphia. They signed and then they released McClung. And to open up a roster spot, they had to release McClung to sign Patrick McCaw, who this organization is pretty familiar with. Let's start off with McClung. Obviously, in high school, he was a YouTube legend growing up in West Virginia. He was a human highlight reel who, for a white boy, could climb the ladder, show off these springs for legs, and throw down some hammers. Started his college career at Georgetown under Patrick Ewing and was pretty solid. And then he transferred to Texas Tech to play for Chris Beard. And a lot of people expected coming out of high school, this guy was going to be a first-round pick. If he exited college a little bit earlier, I remember seeing a lot of projections for him to be that first-round pick. Didn't work out. He was with the Warriors, signed that deal. They ended up letting him go. He signed over the weekend with Philly to play for the Delaware Bluecoats. They released him yesterday. And a common move that currently happens a lot in the NBA, when you sign a player like that to that Exhibit 10 contract, the hope is to have him on the G League roster. And that was the Sixers' hope, is to have McClung on that G League roster. There still might be an opportunity to have him on that G League roster. All he has to do after getting waived by Philadelphia, after they signed him, is to clear waivers. And I'd like to see McClung on this G League roster. I mean, this is a guy who can play create. He can put the ball on the floor. He still has that athleticism and finishing ability. Played pretty well in the NBA Summer League with the Golden State Warriors. A common move, just make it to the G League and get those rights and sign with the Delaware Bluecoats. But obviously, in the player evaluation process, who did Philadelphia like more? They like Patrick McCaw a little bit more. He was signed to a training camp contract. He's a 3-time NBA champion with Golden State and Toronto. And obviously, it's not like he's been a mainstay with Golden State and Toronto. As for what he did last year, playing with the Delaware Bluecoats, solid. Obviously, this guy isn't going to be an impactful player on this Sixers roster. It's more about that depth, but he at least gives you some length and athleticism. 5.5 points per game last year in 17 games played. 3+ rebounds, a steal and a half, 25.5 minutes per game. So you look at the minutes per game there, and then the production, really not that much for Patrick McCaw. But he's been involved in championship atmospheres, in championship cultures, and that's what the Sixers are trying to establish. And it's always good to have the experience, but he probably won't make an impact. Interested, though, to see what happens with McClung, because outside of defense, I think he does some things offensively where he could have a role on an NBA roster, especially if injuries happen at that point guard spot for Philadelphia. Look, the regular season is coming up around the corner. I got the Phillies jersey on because the Phillies in the playoffs, first time they've won a damn playoff series going all the way back to 2010. First time in the playoffs since 2011. But I'm also pumped up, in addition to the Phillies and the Eagles, because I'm all things Philly, for the Sixers season to start. We're about to talk about regular season basketball. If you're with me and you're ready for the Sixers basketball season to start, type me in the comments section. As always, appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time here on 76ers Now.